Hey, welcome. My name is James Johnson, and my expertise lies in retirement and estate planning. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is I'm going to talk to you about why you shouldn't be following common or generalized advice. So, my first question for you is if everything you thought to be true turned out to not be true, how soon would you want to know? So, would you say that your income is common or uncommon? So let's talk about some common beliefs. When I talk to groups of people and I ask them and I play the income game with them and I say, look, what do you think the AGI, the adjusted gross income household, joint household income is for the top 1% of all taxpayers in America? And I frequently hear numbers like, well, it's $1 million. I ask them, what's the top 5%? They'll say things like $750,000. How about the top 10%? Well, average answer, $500,000. Top 25%, average answer, $250,000. And top 50%, $100,000. Now, this is what's commonly believed. It's commonly believed that the top 1% is $1 million. Think about it. What did you answer to these questions? What number did you choose? But would it surprise you to know that the top 1% adjusted gross income, two incomes, household income, before deductions, is $548,336 for the top 1% of all taxpayers in America. And for the top 5%, it's $220,521. For the top 10%, it's $152,321. For the top 25%, it's only $85,853. And for the top 50% of all taxpayers in America, it's $42,184. Now keep in mind, these are joint household incomes. I know I've stated that before, but I want to make that really clear. This is two incomes. Would it surprise you to know that the top 1% of all taxpayers in America pay, of all the taxes paid, they pay 42% of all the income taxes paid in America. And the top 5% pay 62.74%. The top 10% pay 73.67%. The top 25% pay 88.51% of all of the income taxes paid in America. And the top 50% pay 97.68% of all the income taxes paid in America. And my experience here on YouTube is people are often questioning what my numbers look like and where they come from. So I want to show you what the source of this is. And if you have any doubts about what I'm showing you, then all you've got to do is go out to the Internal Revenue Service tax statistics, go to that site right there, and you'll pick up the exact same numbers I'm showing you. Now, that being said, is your income common or uncommon? And I think what you're going to find by common beliefs that you're very uncommon. Yet you're following common advice or generalized advice. The Dave Ramseys of the world are telling you things like pay off your house as soon as possible, don't be debt free, all of these things. Whatever it is, it really doesn't matter because you're an individual. And as an individual, you need to start thinking for yourself. And most importantly, you need to start becoming proactive instead of being reactive. And now let me show you why. You see, the highest income taxes have ever been in the United States has been a top marginal tax bracket of 94%. Since the inception of the temporary income tax and the establishment of the IRS in 1913. Our average over this period of time has been 56.76%, and currently we're sitting in a top marginal tax bracket over here of 37%. Well, if that's all you knew, you'd say, well, look, taxes are at a really low point at this point. But what you really got to understand is what our national debt is right now. And every time I look at this, it's frightening. So if we look up here in the top left corner, we can see our U.S. national debt is $33,951,475,000,000. And if we wait just 30 seconds here, by the time I'm done explaining this to you, it'll be $476 million. We have a national budget of $4.4 trillion. Yet we spent $6.1 trillion, 1.7 trillion more than we actually brought in just this year. And down here in the bottom right corner under unfunded liabilities, we have a $212 trillion debt in promises that we've made in Social Security, Medicare, and prescription drugs. Now, if you add all that up, we're about $245 trillion upside down with a $4.4 trillion budget and still spending 1.7 more than we actually bring in. It's pretty frightening, don't you think? So I don't know. What do you think? You think taxes will be lower, higher, or the same in the future? So it's important to understand that if you're going to play this game, and you really want to play this game and understand how this game is played, then you need to understand there are really only three ways to make money. And one is to make it tax as you go, one is tax deferred, and the other is tax free. Now, I often ask people, which is the worst way? And the answer to that is tax as you go. But when I ask them which was the best way, they always answer the same thing, and that is tax free. And that's actually not the answer. The answer is it depends. And the reason why it depends is because if you can put your money away in a tax-deferred account and you can take it out at a lower rate than when you put it in, you actually win the game. But if you look at that tax chart and you look at where tax rates have been and where tax rates are, and you believe that tax rates will probably go higher, then you probably don't want to be putting money in tax-deferred if you can avoid it. Now, I say if you can avoid it because if your company has an ERISA plan, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a defined benefit plan, or anything where they're actually doing matching and your only choice is to go to tax deferred, it's good to take the match. However, beyond the match, you probably want to be working on getting to tax free. So let's talk a little bit about how money works in your life. And the way money works in your life is it comes into this great big tube over here. And this is what's called the personal economic model. And it comes down to this big tube. It never congregates in that tube. It comes over here. It hits this tax filter. And then it goes out this way. And it's consumed and it's gone forever. Unless you bypass the tax filter by putting money over here in 401ks and IRAs, etc. Or you pump money up these pipes, hitting this tax diverter, and then you go over into what we call a safe tank or over into the risk tank. And for most people, their life looks like this. They've got some money over here in their 401k or their IRA, and this is the tax deferred or the tax postponed money. And this here is controlled by this knob, and this knob here is controlled by the government as to how much you're going to pay in taxes. And then this one here is controlled by the market. It's going up and down and up and down. Because you can see here there's no lid on this. And then what happens frequently is they'll put money in a brokerage account over here. And most of the time, all of their money is at risk. Now, the other way to do it is you pump money up in here and you put it over in the safe tank. Now, most people will look something like this. They'll have some money here and some money here. Now, in addition to that, they'll have a house that looks like this, and then traditionally they'll have a mortgage against their house that looks like this, all right? And a mortgage is money against future obligations. In other words, you're going to be paying that with your future earnings. Now, the interesting thing about that is we can talk really quickly about this, but that is, you've heard me say before, you should pay off your house as fast as possible. Well, the reality is if we were to go here and we were to build up this account right here, the reality is that our house is paid for, because as soon as we have enough money in this account right here, we can move that money over there anytime and pay for our house. Now, you should go watch that on whether you should do that or not, or how you want to pay for your house. That's not the point of this slide. The point of this slide is to get you to understand how money works for you. Now, as it comes up this pipe and it comes to here, it comes to what's called the diverter valve. And when it gets to that diverter valve, what happens here is there are many savings and investment vehicles available in the store for your future lifestyle dollars. Each has a unique set of costs and benefits. Let's consider your preferences on account risk, taxation, and accessibility. Now, when I sit down with people, they're often blown away by this. And what I do is I say, look, if you had a choice in a perfect world, how would you like to segregate your money? Now, you've got to make a choice. You've got to choose between these three. You can put it in high risk, moderate risk, or low risk. And most people will say something like, well, I don't want to have more than 20% of my money at risk. And I'd like to have about 40% of my money over here in moderate risk, and I want 40% of my money in safety. Some of the characteristics of this higher risk account over here is high volatility, higher return potential, and higher chance of loss. Over here, it's limited protection options, moderate volatility, limited liquidity, and moderate return on potential. And over here, it's guaranteed returns, no loss provisions, high liquidity, and lower return on potential. So when we go forward, then we've got to make another choice. We've got to decide how much do we want to have in the taxable bucket, how much we want to have in the tax-deferred bucket, and how much we want to have in the tax-free bucket. Well, most people say something like this. They reverse the rules. They'll say, well, I want only 20% of my money in taxable. I don't want any of my money in tax-free, tax-deferred. I'll take 10%, and I want the rest of it over in tax-free. Well, common characteristics of this are after-tax contributions, ordinary tax due on annual returns, capital gain taxes due withdrawals, and withdrawals and interest affect Social Security taxation. In other words, it goes into your AGI, or what's called your provisional income, and it determines how much of your Social Security is taxable. Now, tax deferred allows both before tax and after tax contributions, ordinary tax due on entire withdrawals affects Social Security taxation, and undesirable if future tax rates are going to be higher. And I think we already discussed what we believe will happen to taxes in the future. Now over here under tax advantage, or what we call tax-free, after tax contributions, tax-free withdrawal options, may require qualifications, may be invisible to Social Security taxation. So in other words, it has no effect on our Social Security. Now, if you're really young here, you're thinking, well, Social Security isn't going to be here. Well, I got news for you. It probably is going to be here, and it's going to be a part of your future. So you do want to start planning towards it. Well, I put together a portfolio here of standard investments for people. Let's just take a look at what we've got here. We've got this account over here. We'll just call this our brokerage account, okay? And so in our brokerage account, not a very good speller there, was I? Okay, let's say we've got $200,000 in our brokerage account. It's taxable, it's high, it is accessible, okay? And then we've got over here, we've got another account here, and this account would be our IRA. And in our IRA, we've got $100,000. And this is a tax-deferred account. And it's high risk most of the time, and it is non-accessible. And then we'll have over here our Roth IRA. So we'll put that in this account right here. We'll have our Roth IRA, and we'll say there's $20,000 in that account. And that's a tax-free account. And generally it's at risk, and it is accessible because we can take out contributions into a Roth anytime we want. We can't take out the growth, okay? And then we'll go over here and we'll put in a checking account. And a checking account's got a couple $1,000s in it. And this account over here would be, actually that account would be taxable, and it would generally be in low risk, and it would be 100% accessible. And then typically we would have a savings account. And that savings account would have, say, $10,000 in it. It's taxable, it's low risk, and it's 100% accessible. And then last but not least, we would have over here our 401k. And let's say our 401k has $300,000 in it, and it's tax deferred, it's high risk, and it is not accessible. And so we can look here and we can see that these are general accounts that most people would have. And if we did a calculation here, we would find that 36% of our portfolio over here is accessible and 63% of it is inaccessible. But what we really wanted to do is we had these desired allocations. Now, if you recall, we had 20% of our money in taxable and in high risk, or that's what we wanted at least. We had 10% of our money in tax deferred and moderate risk, and 30% of our money in tax free and moderate risk. And then we wanted 40% of our money in tax free and no risk. Well, if we take a look at here, the way we actually are, and this is how most people are, is they've got about 98% of their money is at risk, and about 1.9% of their money over here in no risk. Under taxable, they got about 32%. Under tax deferred, it's 63%. And under tax free, it's 3.16%. So we take a look at our numbers here. We can see our numbers that's there. So we've got over here about 620,000, okay, and over here about $12,000 over here in low or no risk. Now, I just made these numbers up, but I can tell you this is what most people look like. Now let's take a look at how that compares to what they actually said they wanted. Well, what they actually said they wanted was they wanted 20, and they've got 31. Over here, they had 0 on the low risk side. They wanted 10, and they ended up with 63% over here, and they wanted 70 over here, or 40 over here, and they ended up with 3.16. So I don't know, are you getting what you want, or are you just kind of running through life and hoping that this all works out for you? So the thing to keep in mind is that for most people are out there following what we would call generalized or common information. And look, don't make any mistake. I don't want to get into a pissing match about the Susie Ormans and the Dave Ramseys of the world. These people serve a very good purpose, and they're very good people, and they're doing good things for people. But they're giving generalized common advice. So are you common or are you uncommon? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put a message in the bottom down here, or put in your comments about what do you think you are? Do you think you're common or uncommon? Did this video help you in any way? And by the way, what do you think is going to happen to taxes? You think taxes are going to go up, down, or stay the same in the future? Remember to live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. Keep smiling, and I'll look forward to talking to you really soon.